Hey, thinkers and feelers. Welcome back to Planting Thoughts, the podcast where we dig deep into psychology, philosophy, and everything in between. I'm your host, Mike, and today you're going to learn about detachment. Episode 12 is all about letting go or losing yourself. Before we dive in, quick shout out to all of you who tuned into our last episode. My co-host, Manon, and I explored psychopathy, examining chilling cases like Luis Garavito and the BTK killer. We also took the hair psychopathy checklist ourselves, and let's just say we were both a little bit surprised and slightly terrified by the results. If you missed it, definitely scroll back to episode 11. It was one of our wildest yet. Now, Manon's off this week doing some field work, but she'll be back for episode 13 when we tackle teen vaping, nicotine addiction, and the psychology behind why marketing preys on the developing brain. All right, now let's detach, but not from your headphones. Today we're going to dive into detachment, not just zoning out or ghosting people, but intentional psychological detachment. We're going to talk about when detachment is healthy, when it becomes a problem, and why it might be the key to a more peaceful life, if you do it right. We'll explore some surprising research, discuss how detachment fits into work, relationships, friendships, and yes, we'll talk about the famous concept, the let them theory, developed by Mel Robbins. Let's clear something up. Detachment is not emotional suppression. Detachment in psychology is the ability to step back and observe your emotions without being ruled by them. It's a strategy used in cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, and even DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. Suppression, on the other hand, is when you bottle it all up. You pretend you don't care. This usually backfires. In fact, in one fascinating study by Gross and Levinson, they found that emotional suppression actually increased stress in both the suppressor and the people around them. So healthy detachment is not about being cold. It's about being conscious. Now, the science part, don't zone out. This is really good stuff here. Remember the marshmallow test? Walter Mischel tested kids' ability to basically delay gratification. Those who could detach from the reward long enough had better life outcomes decades later. That's detachment in action. There's also some burnout research by Moslock and Jackson in 1981, and they found that healthcare workers who developed healthy emotional detachment were less likely to experience burnout. But those who overdid it started depersonalizing patients. So again, balance is everything. Now let's break it down. In relationships, detachment protects against codependency. It says, I love you, but I don't need to control you. In friendships, detachment helps us let people grow and change. No one likes a clingy friend who can't respect space. At work, detachment prevents burnout, especially for leaders. It helps with objectivity, delegation, boundary setting. The goal isn't to not care, it's to care wisely. Enter the let them theory, which was popularized by Mel Robbins. And it might sound like a TikTok trend, but it's honestly one of the most grounded psychological principles out there right now. The theory is pretty simple. Let them ghost you. Let them take credit. Let them flake. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk behind your back. Because when you stop trying to control someone else's behavior, you start reclaiming your peace. It's not about giving up, and it's definitely not being passive. It's not about apathy. It's about empowerment. And it draws directly from radical acceptance, a concept in dialectical behavioral therapy developed by Marshall Linehan. In DBT, radical acceptance means fully accepting reality as it is without resisting, denying, or demanding that it be different, because the truth is pain is inevitable. But suffering comes from resistance. So when someone behaves in a way that bothers you, you have two choices. Waste your energy trying to change them, or accept what they're showing you and let them. When you say let them, you're not condoning bad behavior. You're just recognizing that their behavior is data. And how you respond to that data is your power. It's the difference between saying, they shouldn't be doing that to me, versus, they're showing me who they are. And now I get to decide what I want to do with that. The mindset is really helpful in dating, right? Let them breadcrumb you. Let them leave you on red. You just save yourself months of guessing games. Friendships, let them make zero effort. You'll know who's real without confrontation. At work, let them take credit. Let them micromanage. Now you've got clarity and maybe motivation to move on. It's liberating. It shifts the focus from reactivity to response. You stop managing everyone else's narrative and start choosing your own boundaries. Look, I haven't always been good at this, and I've confronted friends before about their garbage behavior. Yeah, I probably should have listened to the book. It did not go well for me. In fact, with some of those people, I'm no longer friends. Stop tying your peace to someone else's behavior. And that, right there, is the beginning of freedom. So let's layer in a bit more Buddhist psychology, if you will, in there, Buddhist philosophy, because this idea of attachment isn't new. It's been around for around 2,500 years. One of the central teachings in Buddhism, in fact, is something called the Four Noble Truths. And at the heart of it, it's basically this: suffering exists. Suffering is caused by craving. There's a way to end that suffering, and the path is through letting go. That craving, it's not just for material things, it's craving for control, craving for approval, craving for people to act the way we want them to act. The Buddha taught that when we cling, whether it's to relationships, outcomes, identities, expectations, we suffer. Why? Because all of those things are impermanent. People change, situations shift. The more tightly you grip, the more it hurts when reality doesn't cooperate. So when we detach, not in a cold, shut-off kind of way, but in a compassionate, mindful way, we suffer less. We accept that when we can love someone, we can also let them go. We can try hard and still release the outcome. That's powerful stuff. It's spiritual wisdom, yes, but it's also deeply psychological. It's about freedom through inner stillness, not external control. Now, if you'll let me get personal for a moment, this idea of detachment, it's not just something I've read about. I've lived through it. I was in a relationship with someone who, let's just say, wanted me to be someone I wasn't. She'd say I was too gruff, too mistrusting of people's intentions, too guarded. Even my weekend outfit, shorts and a graphic t-shirt, were apparently up for debate with her. She didn't understand why I like to save money instead of going out every weekend. And that's fine. People are allowed to be different. But over time, it really started to mess with me. So I tried to change, at least a little. I softened my edges. I let new people in. I made some new friends along the way, which was great. But I constantly felt off, like I was playing a character in someone else's script. And after 2 years of trying to earn her acceptance, I finally hit a wall. And I realized I was enough. I could evolve, yes, but not to fit into someone's vision of me. Vision for me. I kept some of the growth, and I'm still a little bit more open, still friends with a few of those new people. But I stopped measuring my worth by whether or not she was happy with who I was becoming. The worst part wasn't the fights or even the eventual breakup. It was that subtle, daily erosion of self. The trying, bending, reshaping, until I barely recognized who I was doing it all for. So that day I made a decision. I'll be the best version of me. Not for someone else, not for approval, not for outcomes, but because I liked who I was becoming. That, to me, is real detachment, not apathy, not withdrawal, just releasing the pressure to contort yourself for love that requires conditions. Now, let's not pretend detachment is all rainbows and incense. Over-detachment can look like emotional unavailability, Avoidant attachment. Lack of vulnerability. Studies by Hausen and Shaver in 1987 showed that avoidantly attached people tend to avoid intimacy and report lower relationship satisfaction. So use detachment as a tool, not as armor. So here's a quick breakdown on what healthy versus unhealthy detachment might look like. So let's go over a few of these traits, and then we'll talk about whether it's healthy or unhealthy. Emotional presence. A healthy response is being present but non-reactive. An unhealthy response would be emotionally unavailability. Boundaries. Healthy, being assertive. Unhealthy, avoiding. Conflict response. Healthy, calm observation. An unhealthy, the silent treatment. Self-regulation. Healthy would be grounded. Unhealthy, dissociated or numb. So you see, detachment isn't about being cold, non-caring, apathetic, aloof. Detachment is about removing the outcome from the equation. It's about living in the moment. It's about doing things because you enjoy them. It's about doing what you want and not expecting other people to accept you for who you are. Just be yourself, and then whatever they give you as data, work with it. Decide whether you want them in your life. So what have we learned from today? Detachment can protect your peace, improve your focus, strengthen your relationships, if done intentionally. So the next time someone disrespects your boundary, disappoints you, or just does their own thing, let them. Then ask yourself, what do I want to do with this information? That is where your power is. If you like this episode, please follow, like, and share on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. And if you really vibe with us, leave a review. It helps us grow in this little garden of thoughts. And remember, Manon will be back next week when we explore teen vaping, marketing, and manipulation, and why cotton candy vape juice is probably evil. Until then, stay grounded, and maybe let go just a little bit. Peace.